Heard about all the benefits of the keto diet but concerned it might hurt your thyroid? Watch this video and I'll tell you exactly how you can use keto, even with Hashimoto's. For the best information when it comes to natural health care for your thyroid, subscribe to my channel and ring the bell. That way you're notified every time I post a video each and every Thursday. Over the past 5 years, I've helped hundreds of women better understand their thyroid and help them get their lives back. One of the ways that we do that is utilizing tools like the keto diet. So before we jump into how the keto diet can be effective for Hashimoto's, let's first start by defining the keto diet. The keto diet is any sort of approach that increases your blood levels of ketones and switches your body's reliance from glucose to using ketone bodies and fatty acids as its primary fuel source. The way that we achieve this is we decrease the amount of carbohydrates that we take in during the day. The usual benchmark is less than 30 net grams of carbohydrates per day, and that will allow our body to again shift from that sugar burning mode to a fat burning mode. Now, some people will squabble over the amount of fat and protein that we should intake during the day, saying that too much protein may kick us out of ketosis, or if we're not consuming enough fat, it won't give us enough substrate to actually burn and create those ketone bodies. But I really think that the biggest thing and the biggest key to getting into a state of ketosis is reducing that carbohydrate load. Once we do that, the protein and the fat are less important for achieving the metabolic switch and more important for managing your symptoms on the day-to-day. Things like energy, things like metabolism, etc. So as of right now, don't worry about the amount of protein or fat that you're taking in. Don't worry about the ratios of one to the other. Just focus in on the carbohydrate load, and by reducing it under 30 net grams, you will get most of the way there to achieving the level of ketosis that we need to increase and improve your metabolism. But even though we know the keto diet can be supportive to our metabolic rate, and it can help things like stabilizing our energy, a lot of people are concerned about the effects that it may have on your thyroid. Well, where does this come from? There has been some research done that shows low carbohydrate diets will lead to a reduction in T3 levels. Here's the thing, that one little snippet has been blown out of proportion. What it doesn't address is that although T3 levels were lowered with low carbohydrate diets, it did not result in a lowering of that person's basal metabolic rate. Meaning, although the lab value looked different, we didn't see any change in the person's physiology, and the physiology may have been better in terms of caloric burning. So we have to be a little bit careful when it comes to some of this misinformation, because if we don't look into the details of the research paper, we can, again, sort of be scared by things that really don't have a lot of meaning for how we actually feel and perform. So if we don't have to worry about the reduction of the carbohydrates hurting our thyroid output, what do we have to worry about? And it is true, people on the keto diet, when they have Hashimoto's, they can screw it up, so we do have to be careful. The biggest problem that I see people running into is the keto diet, just as a general rule, tends to focus on things like meat-heavy diets and dairy-heavy diets. But if you've watched any of my other videos, and the last one I did is a great one to check out in terms of the foods that work best with people who have Hashimoto's, you'll know that dairy is a food that tends to be more immunoreactive for people. So I've had a number of patients who have said, you know what, I did keto, it was helpful for me in terms of losing weight, but I probably felt the worst that I ever have before. Or people may adopt a ketogenic diet, and what happens is they actually increase their weight. Well, that doesn't make any sense to them because this is supposed to be the ultimate weight loss approach. But again, it's because we're having a negative reaction, a negative immune response to the dairy products, which is causing an increased inflammatory issue. Overall, the problem is typically this. People adopting a ketogenic diet focus so intently on their macros, their fat, their protein, their carbohydrate, and they forget the quality of food. When it comes to Hashimoto's and when it comes to autoimmunity, we have to be hyper-focused, not just on macronutrients, but also the quality. If we're having things that are unhealthy for us, whether it's unhealthy fats or foods that are immunogenic, it is going to cause issues and it will prevent us from achieving our health goals. But can we create a ketogenic plan that is both healthy in terms of the quality of food and has the appropriate macronutrients for us to lose weight and improve our energy? Absolutely. If you avoid things like milk products, butter, potentially eggs, and also understand that foods like nuts and seeds can be problematic for people with Hashimoto's, Then you have a recipe for having a ketogenic diet that not only has healthy amounts of fat and protein, but also avoids those foods that can be problematic when we have autoimmune issues. Now that we got our food selection right, why is it that the ketogenic diet is such a powerful tool for helping people with thyroid issues improve their energy and lose weight, especially when other strategies haven't been as effective? Well, it all comes back to the autoimmune component of Hashimoto's. Whenever we have chronic autoimmunity, there's going to be an associated increase in inflammation. And inflammation can really wreak havoc with our body's insulin receptors, essentially making it less sensitive to the hormone insulin. If you're not familiar, insulin is kind of like a lock and key, which opens the door for glucose, or blood sugar, to flow into our cell, which can then be burned for energy. If we can't open that door, then our metabolism is affected, and typically in a negative way. Essentially, we can't access calories like we should, and therefore we can't burn them like we would like to. This can lead to, as we said, poor energy and the accumulation of fat stores. Therefore, by dramatically reducing our carbohydrate intake, we not only improve our insulin sensitivity, but we also allow our body to shift into a fat-burning mode. When this happens, we are more likely to utilize the fat stores on our body for fuel, and we can then access that fuel to help support our energy levels. It's pretty cool. Now, I know a lot of my patients have been told that the ketogenic diet is not a good idea for their thyroid function. But what about you? Just comment yes below if you've been told before that keto is bad for Hashimoto's and thyroid function. By this point, we know that a ketogenic diet is primarily achieved by reducing our overall carbohydrate intake and consuming healthy amounts of fat and protein. We also know that even though T3 levels may look low on labs, it doesn't necessarily correlate with overall thyroid function, so it's not something that we need to stress about. The biggest mistake that people make when transitioning to a keto diet when they're dealing with Hashimoto's is consuming a lot of dairy-rich foods or nuts and seeds, which can be problematic for our immune system. Lastly, we know that the keto diet is super helpful at restoring insulin sensitivity and allowing our body to burn fat, which allows us to lose weight and improve energy stability. But here's one more thing that you have to pay attention to when transitioning to a ketogenic diet. And a lot of people who aren't aware of this think that their symptoms are actually getting worse when it's just part of the transition. And it all comes back to our old friend insulin. Now, when we have a decrease in our carbohydrate intake, it leads to lower insulin levels in our blood, which is a good thing. But insulin doesn't just deal with blood sugar, it also deals with our electrolytes. If we have lower insulin, we also tend to lose more salt in our urine, which can be problematic for a number of symptoms. Low sodium can cause symptoms like headaches, low blood pressure, dizziness, and overall fatigue. And if we're not aware that these things can be a component of that transition phase, then it's going to make life a lot harder on us. I recommend in this stage upping the amount of salt that you add to your food, or even using an electrolyte powder, which will help to smooth some of the symptoms as you transition and eventually adapt to the difference in the amount of carbohydrates that you're getting. So now you know that the ketogenic diet can be a powerful tool for helping to support Hashimoto's, not hurt Hashimoto's. If you reduce your carbohydrates, increase your protein and fat, make sure you're not consuming inflammatory foods, and do a little extra support like adding some electrolytes, you will be on your way to achieving the health goals that you want to achieve, especially if you've been stuck trying to figure out how to get your weight moving again or manage your energy levels. If you're interested in having some more help on exactly what foods you should choose, I've written a dietary strategy guide that will list out all those details for you. All you have to do is check out the link in the description below, and you'll be able to access all of that information. If you like this video on the ketogenic diet and Hashimoto's, hit that like button, be sure to subscribe, and share it with a friend or family member who's looking for a new way to support their thyroid. I'm Dr. Bodle, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you real soon.